terrible.
Okay,
No.
obviously you're not a producer, maybe a wannabe pun.
I know. This is so terrible. We had such a good show at the first 15 minutes. But anyway, yeah, I just had some messages from people saying like, "Are you on? We don't see you."
Oh boy. Well, we could start all over again and make it 45-minute show.
Yeah, these are the fun parts of our show.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
my
exactly.
goodness.
All right, Lynn, maybe I need to come on more often and I'll watch for that part.
I know, right? No, I just totally we got
Now
so
that I
excited.
see the live, now that I see the live box, I know what that means.
Yeah.
No one noticed that. I just
No,
saw
I
the
was leaving a
countdown and just
message
assumed
to
that the
people are like,
countdown
"Where
was
are you? I don't see you. I only see old episodes." And I was like, "Oh my God, I forgot to press go live."
All right, so why don't you start over at least with the introduction and
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of embarrassing, but anyway, the audience didn't see what happened before, so even if we repeat it, I just don't want you to wait around too long, Barbara. But today we have because we're so close to the election, and this is probably going to be one of the most important elections of our lifetime. Mo and I were discussing like how important it is for us to go out and vote. Mo was sharing about how he took his daughter there because in a couple of years she's going to be voting. So I mean, like, it's always good to set a good example, and voting is such an important thing, and
Yep.
all politics is local. So make sure you go out and vote. Don't be complacent, and don't let other people decide for you, because when you don't decide, there's someone deciding for you. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so be a part of that decision, even if that decision isn't going to side with you, but at least voice your opinion and voiced your preference, right? So anyway, today
Yes.
I have my commissioner of North Miami Beach, because this is where I live, and she's been our commissioner for 13 years, although I've only been a resident for 5. But yeah, we're very happy to have her here, and she's going to share a little bit about local politics. But Mo, you were saying something about like how perfect Barbara is, because we are ones who want to come in and share a little bit
Yeah,
about.
no, because I mean that piggybacks in things that we've discussed in the past about term limits. Yeah, you and I both agree in term limits, and Barbara obviously just that she agrees too. But she's somebody that's going through experiencing what a term limit is. Like, I've done my job, and it's time for me to go. And if in a few years I'm able to do this again, and the people demand it, like we discussed earlier, then yeah, I think you should come back. But that's based on people wanting you back, not based on you building a life. Career out of politics.
Absolutely.
And that's the way it should be. Now,
you were saying you were actually supporting term limits when you were first elected.
Yes, so that was on a charter amendment that I was a very active, involved resident in the city, and there was a charter, a committee. I wasn't on the committee, but I was certainly listening, and we were putting together what we thought, our commissioners should bring forward. And one of the items was to have term limits, because I saw as a new candidate how difficult. I was fortunate. I was going into an open seat, and it's the only seat I wanted to go into because I didn't want to deal with an incumbent. And when these commissioners have been in office for 16, 18, 20 years, first of all, how do you go up against them? But secondly, times change, and I absolutely noticed that there wasn't this forward-thinking logic, forward-thinking, creativity, changes that needed to happen in our city, because the politicians get very comfortable with the same old. And being that I grew up here in North Miami Beach, I was seeing the same old since I was in high school. So I was ready, to see that change and to be a part of that change. And as we were saying, there's something to be said about term limits. And of course, there's a situation where you have someone where everyone's like, oh, what are we going to do without you, Barbara? Because I'm a big mouth. And what are we going to do without you? Who's going to speak? Who's going to put it all on the table like you do? But the truth of the matter is, I'm burnt out in a sense. I mean, I want to break, I want to step back and organically see if this is something I would do again. I keep saying I'm absolutely, I don't.
Right.
And yes, if the people really wanted me and I thought, I could do it again, and I have the spirit and the tenacity and the passion to do it again, and a positive attitude, not the negative attitude that I'm leaving office with, then perhaps I would do it. But I will say that I ran because the people wanted me. This was not something I thought I could do, wanted to do. I was scared out of my mind. I'm not a politician. And I just kind of think about, I held my nose, like jumped in the pool and just did it, just did it. And here I am, very different than how I started.
I'm glad you did, because, and this is something that my personal campaign in life now is to encourage more people like you were back then and I was during this past election cycle to just say, you know what, the people want something different. They need a champion, and I'm going to just hold my nose and jump in the pool, and hopefully I can be that. That's what I think, representatives and politicians should be. Again, you represent a group of people,
right?
Voice for those people. And unless you can, again, political pulse, unless you have a pulse in that community to be able to say, okay, I understand the needs and I want to share, or I want to vocalize what the needs are, or speak on behalf of those people and represent those people in this office or the seat, you shouldn't get into politics. This is not about a job or having a job or getting a paycheck. And when it becomes, when your attitude changes, when it becomes negative, when, like you said, your spirit is no longer in it, step away, take a break. And if you, again, the people call you back like, Barbara, then you reassess and see if, this is for you again. So
yeah, if that lifts me, it lifts me. Like I said, everything with me is very organic. I don't plan these things. I believe you me. Lynn doesn't know me from 13 years ago, but I'm not the same. I'm me, but I've evolved. I mean, I'm not scared. I'm not timid. I'm not shaking when I speak. I just go in there and get the job done. And it's taken a lot for me to do that. And the only reason why my passion, I don't want to say it's my passion diminished so much as I lost a little bit of my mojo, because my colleagues have done that to me. They have, they don't like that I call them out. I'm not one to allow my colleagues to just speak untruths, and I will correct them. And when they do something wrong, I will correct that. And if they do something good, of course, I'm going to champion it, no matter how my personal feelings are towards them. And they don't like that I do that. And so they've been very combative. They've said awful things that are untrue, obviously. Won't go into that because it's that would take hours to talk about. But we need to change this, because this is not how you run for office. You don't divide a community. You don't make up stories and try to hit vulnerable people into believing these stories so that they don't vote for you. And you keep in people that are not there for all the right reasons. So, like you said, a lot of people, there's a power trip for some people, or they think it's good for business. I mean, I've seen it all. I've heard it all. I've once heard a candidate say they were strictly in it for the insurance at the time. This is going back a decade ago. And I was just like, wow.
At least you're honest.
But he didn't even know I was hearing him. It was sort of accidental that I happened to be on an earpiece on the phone with somebody who happened to see this candidate. And they said, hold on, I'm just going to say hello. I'm driving around. And they mentioned, I can't believe you're running to this candidate. And the candidate said, well, with all their children, they, this was a good thing because the health insurance he would get health insurance. And I was just like on the other line, my mouth had dropped. Like, that's why you're running.
That's why he's doing it.
You know?
He's not the only
zero pulse of what was happening in the community.
Yeah, well, he had a pulse on what's happening in his family. They had insurance needs. So.
Exactly. Exactly. And that person lost. And, thank God. I mean, but I don't, again, maybe he would have been honest. My whole thing is, and I tell this to Lynn all the time, to me, we need politicians that are honest. We really need to get to the core of who our politicians are as people.
Yep.
And I feel like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know an ordinance from a resolution. I'm telling you, I was so scared because I didn't know all the, the words and just what you actually do. And I remember even pensions. I didn't grow up in a family with pensions. I mean, I didn't understand anything, but you learn, so if you have a brain, I mean, you can learn all of this. You can't learn how to be honest. You can't. You either are or you're not.
Right.
There's no training on how to be honest, right? There's training for everything else, but that's something that's your core value. And I'm very happy to assist anybody who feels they don't know this, they're scared, but they want to make a difference. They want to do something for their community. And that's what we have to extract from people before we say, you would be a good politician or you would be a good leader in your community.
Because it shouldn't be that you're a good politician. It should be that you're a good leader in your community.
Exactly. That's why I changed it. Right. I hate using the word politician, but if you Google, what's the definition of politician? It's what we are. But because of how dirty it has such a, a connotation, I guess, because there's just so many bad politicians out there that now the word politician just means like dishonest, like a bad person, rather than a representative of your office that you're holding.
And that's why I'm being called the unpolitician, because, it was in my campaign speech. I was like, politicians lie. It's like, and people were like, just like sharing, they're like, I loved your video because they do lie.
Well, that's like me. I kept saying I'm just a resident with a title. That's I never introduce, rarely on occasion, for whatever reason, I might introduce myself as Commissioner Kramer. But for the most part, I would take out my hand to shake someone's hand. I'm Barbara Kramer. And I remember my former mayor, a friend of mine, would always say, she's a commissioner, because I'm just humble. Like, to me, that title doesn't define who I am, and in some
call
cases,
yourself a resident with a title.
Yeah. I mean, in some cases, of course, they have to know who I am, so they know who they're talking to for reasons, that we're there in a room or whatever the case is, what we're there for. But for the most part, my name is who I am, and sometimes I say I'm Barbara Kramer. I'm a commissioner in North Miami Beach, rather than I'm Commissioner Kramer, because I'm not comfortable, believe it or not, with that.
It's like the title changes people sometimes, and it's we've spoken on that on the show about how, it's like, does it change you once you get the title? Because so many people say, no, I'm part of the, they tell you, but then you see the transition over their career. It's like they used to be, and you see it when they, people get dropped from their endorsements. They're like, oh, they used to be endorsed by this group, but now they're endorsing someone else. Used to be, because that changed.
Sorry.
So along the line, they became something different. I don't know what you did, Lynn, but Lynn's messing with all our technical support systems, our cameras and our sound. She's our tech support, and
better her than me.
That's for sure.
But yes, I encourage anybody that is watching this that has a spirit to make a difference. It's not an easy road. I won't lie to you, but if you have that passion and you have the people behind you, the people will carry you where you need to go. If it's something that you want to do, but you're not even engaged with the people in your community, they're until you meet those people, you can't be carried over the threshold by the people that are supporting you financially. They're all they're doing is money. All they're doing is maybe an endorsement here or there, but they're not, the people is what gets you to the finish line. And I remember telling the residents that asked me. I was involved in a civic association. I was doing my little stuff, on the side, and that's how I knew so many people. But I remember when I was asked to run, and I was like, I can't do this. And it took years, and I said to everyone, I said, then you put me in office. I'm not doing this. I'm not putting my money into it. I'm doing this for all of you. I'm not doing this for me. And me is part of the you, but meaning I'm not doing it like I need this. I don't need this. We all maybe need me because nobody wanted to step up to it, right? It is a package. You have to have that package. And for whatever reason, it was my turn. I was picked. I don't know. And I did it, but I would have never done it without the support of the residents, because otherwise, who are you doing it for?
So let me ask you a question, because you are obviously term limited. So if you weren't limited now, if you weren't limited from running in this election, would you run again this election cycle, or would you have?
It's a really hard question. I don't know. I've had such a bad time of it because of some of my colleagues. They've just made it so impossible that I don't know. And that's why I'm glad I'm stepping back, because I can watch this election cycle and see if there is a literal pulse in the citizenry. I mean, are my people, are you alive? Do you see what's going on here? Because we're doing this for them. And if they're asleep at the wheel, does any of this kind of matter in a way? If nobody cares, it's, I know it sounds so crazy, but that's how I operate. I feed off of that. And so if I see that there's a turnover, that the people have woken up. In fact, I had started a Nextdoor. I don't know if everyone knows what Nextdoor is, but it's a great app because, other than finding everybody's lost dog and finding the great painter nobody seems to, can find, you also can, just get your neighbors together with politics. So I started with the hashtag #WakeUpNMB. And literally, wake up, everyone's in their slumber, right? So I started this Nextdoor group. It's up to about 280 people. We make sure that they're strictly North Miami Beach residents, not unincorporated, not in, another city. And we're starting to, I feel like it's back from when I ran and there was a civic association, that we're starting to get people seeing what's going on in our city, and we are waking them up. And I think if this works, because remember, COVID for 2 years or more really, really just put everybody in a sleeper, right? And I think that if people are starting to wake up and they really do care about your community and they want me, I might do it again. But if I could find somebody else that I believe in, I will help that person go there. You know what I'm saying? And I'll just stand back and just support. So, I don't know. I can't answer it. I really honestly can't.
That's a question I have for everyone that reaches their term limit. It's like, are they happy that they hit that 8? Like, if I ever get a chance to talk to a president, I'm like, are you happy that you don't get to run again?
Oh, God, I'm sure they're exhausted after 8 years of being the president. I mean, you see how much they age. But I will say this. If I was having as much fun and getting things done and I had the old administrator, maybe I might be disappointed in having to be termed out, and maybe I would have wanted to run again. And I think it's really interesting for me emotionally. I'm kind of glad that I am feeling the way I am, and I kind of lost my mojo, because if I was having such a good time emotionally, this would be really hard for me. I cleared out my office, my city office, on Saturday. I didn't shed a tear. And there's no question that if I was having a really good time and I had all my posse around me, it would be very emotional. If the city administration normally would have been in the room with me with boxes and helping me get out and probably having a lunch for me and, a proclamation, doing things for me, because we all were such a great team and a great family. I don't have any of that. So it's like, see ya, don't let the door hit you in the butt. I just hope that good people can get reelected so we can bring that that passion and that goodwill and a sense of community, and not this divisiveness that I have seen in the last couple of years happen in my city.
Okay.
Mm.
So now another question. So in your time as a commissioner, and I'm pretty sure you've rubbed elbows with other commissioners from other cities and mayors and things like that, League of Cities, events, things of that nature. Have you met someone that reminds you of yourself? You don't have to say that person now.
No. Yes,
Okay.
I definitely have. But okay, in the sense of honesty and doing it for all the right reasons,
The
yeah.
same presentation of being
Yes,
a city.
not everybody has the same passion or excitement, depending on their age group also. But yes, I've met some people similar, and I've also met people similar to me, but not as transparent, which bothers me. And Lynn knows this. I have a big issue with transparency, and I have to learn not to judge. No, not everyone can be like me. It's like it's a weird, like how people are gifted with a certain sense. Like I have this gift of just being transparent. I don't know how to not be this very open person. I joke and say I'm like a walking box of saran wrap. But, so I see people I see that they're honest. I just wish they would be more vocal and more transparent, because I think the people need to know what is going on, and I always say, not to bring this up, but I'm going to. Trump, a lot of people, Trump was what some people thought would be this, this politician that was not from the DC, was not rubbing elbows with anyone. If anything, it was the opposite. And a lot of people thought that he would go in there and say to the American people, let me tell you what the hell's going on in Washington, D.C. This is all BS, right? But he didn't do that, right? He didn't do that. But I think a lot of people supported him and voted for him because they were hoping somebody would talk the talk. He talks the talk, but half the time, I don't know if it's, whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like I would be that person, but they'd probably get rid of you before you talk too much, because that's all one big secret. I speak all the time about what's going on in my city. It's freaking crazy. So much so that the city manager doesn't even respond to me.
Wow.
Yeah. I get no emails. I get no answers about anything. It's that bad.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when things like that happen, like how do you handle it? Like, I mean, this is not working, right? You're an elected official, and if there's an issue that you want, as the city manager essentially works for they're like the working arm, like the executor, right? Like the of the commission.
Right.
So if you can't communicate with them, the staff, right? Or I mean, supposedly there's a chief of staff and the city manager and all that. If you can't communicate with them, like how do you resolve something like that?
Well, you don't, and that's why I haven't really gotten anything done in 2 years. I don't care to work with people like this. I can't keep my mouth shut with what I see. And so they don't like that. Now, you would think that in the past, we've had managers where my colleagues did not get along with the manager. I didn't even get along with those colleagues. But there was still a level of respect. And most managers, even though they might have their 4 votes, we're 7, right? So the magic number is 4. Even though I'm the type of person, if I would do anything to win over all 7, I would work so hard. And I've watched managers do that. I've seen it time and time again, and we've had a revolving door of managers where they just will do anything to just win that other, a boss of theirs, commissioner, to see them as a good manager and to do what they want and treat them with the respect. That doesn't happen here. This manager knows where their 4 votes are, and it could care less what I want, to the point that I would run an annual tour. I started this magical history tour, and it's the history of our city, and it's a beautiful bus tour. It's like a 4-hour tour. And we didn't do it for 2 years because of COVID, couldn't put everybody on the bus safely. So this year, being that it would be my last year as a commissioner, I wanted to do this. That son of a gun wouldn't budge. wouldn't budge. Even at a meeting when I called him out on it and I said, my committee wants to know if we're, we want to go ahead with the tour. I need an answer. I can't give you that answer. This is at a commission meeting. And basically said, I got to see if we can do it. It's like it maybe cost $1,000. I have the money in the discretionary funds. Just wouldn't do it. Just stuck it right to me. Just stuck it right to me. And, okay.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, I only hope that the right people get elected so we can boot him right the heck out of here with cause.
Seriously,
with cause.
This is what we see, though, right? We see bureaucrats like taking over, and that's the scary part because all the dirty work the elected officials ask the bureaucrats to do because they're not voted by they're not voted in by the people. So the elected officials still look good while they're they have somebody else doing all their dirty work on the side.
Some people think it's my colleagues that are telling the manager not to do anything. And if the manager was strong, and I told him, I said, you are a weak manager. You think you're strong. You think you are, but you're weak because you don't know how to say no to my colleagues. You don't know how to say, I'm not going to do that to one of my bosses. I mean, this is something that is, I do what I do for you guys, whatever the heck they say behind closed doors. I don't know. Right. But there's definitely somebody else running the city. It's not my manager. There's definitely other people behind my city. And that's what's so scary. We've never had this type of manipulation before. Believe me, it's a mess. It's a mess. It would take me hours to explain it all. And it's just too negative because thank God not every city is doing what my city's doing right now. It never happened in the past. And we hope we change the trajectory, with this election.
See, these are the things that voters need to be aware of because, again, they live in the city and they don't realize, again, how their city is being managed. And again, how much power some individual that's one they didn't vote in has over the city, over how their things are done in their municipality.
They don't realize you voted for me, but I don't have a voice because I use my voice to defend all of us, to speak for all of us. And now they're starting to realize it. And it takes time. It takes time. A lot of these residents, like I said, are just waking up. Lynn knows I'm very vocal on Facebook, which is not the best platform, but if I can get some of my, because I don't know why I don't get into Twitter and all that stuff, but I guess because I talk too much, it doesn't give me enough words. But I,
with
Facebook.
Elon Musk owning it, you should get
Oh yeah. I mean, I rant. I do a lot of ranting, and people are like, they won't even. A lot of people, I think they all are like, go Barbara, but they don't even comment. They're afraid to comment. And I'm not even that. I'm not that right controversial. I'm just talking truth. But
you're just calling people out, and I guess
I'm just calling people out. I love to call people out because that's the problem with society is everybody's so damn quiet.
Show, by the way.
What's that? What?
That's the whole point of our show is to call out politicians. Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
So this election over, so all three of us going to start calling people out. We haven't started yet.
But no, like when you mentioned have I met other people that are similar to me, I in the beginning, I was schmoozing as we say in Yiddish. I was schmoozing with a lot of the other politicians going to the League of Cities and all that kind of stuff. And it's fun. It's fun. There's some fun in it, but I now I look at it with a little different set of eyes and a lot of people, like we said, it's a big ego fest. A lot of people think they're super powerful, and some of them are. If you're in a really big city, you are pretty powerful. But I see right through a lot of the politicians, and I think it's going to be hard to find, nice, innocent, honest people and try to get them ready to become, a politician. It's not easy.
Yeah, some people like to go out for the what do you call those events, the League of City events, and all the other things that you get invited to. I've heard of, I'm not going to throw people under the bus yet, but
I
not
want to
the,
be here though when you do.
yeah, oh, sure, yeah. But I've heard of mayors that are just like they're running and they, they don't have term limits, but they keep going. And, people are upset with them, but they keep running for a re-election because, well, they don't want to give up their status at League of Cities, or, they just have so much fun, or
Because it defines them. They haven't, look, I've been doing this for 13 and a half years. I can't wait to see what I forgot what it's like not to be in that position. Although for years I've stopped going because of COVID. I stopped going to the league. I stopped going to those. I mean, but I did go for a while and then it got exhausting. It was just a lot, a lot of stuff to do. And I didn't think it was benefiting my city by schmoozing with these people. I mean,
still don't know how it's a city, but I mean, I would go if I was a commissioner, I'd go, but I still don't see how it benefits the city. So
right. I mean, it's good. It's good to go. It's good to know what's going on. And my favorite part of the League of Cities when we used to go to them was the round tables, because the round tables really got you around the table with other commissioners, and we would be able to have discussions and see what's going on in their city. And you did get great ideas like that. So in that case, it's very worthwhile. But the schmooze part of it, I guess it's good to make relationships. That's important. You can call someone and get what you need. But I don't know. It's been a while since I've gone to these things, so it's it's hard to remember, when things you were getting some good information. I will tell you that there was something in Miami-Dade County. Well, it wasn't Miami-Dade County. It was called the Good Government Initiative. And this was back in 2011. And they started this initiative, and through the University of Miami and a former county commissioner, she started this to groom politicians they're already elected. She wanted people that were more newly elected to teach them the ropes of government. And we would meet the media, we would meet with lobbyists. Every other weekend we had, a day event, and then we had 2 overnighters. And that was where I learned so much. And believe it or not, they had to close it down because there was no politicians left to help anymore. There were so many of them that thought they didn't need these classes. They were above all of this. And that was where I met some really great people and made some great connections and learned a ton from really good people. And it was all because of the person that was actually, putting together this initiative. So that I wish would come back.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The things, because when I as a resident,
I want to get to the juicy part.
Yeah, what's the juicy parts?
So the juicy part is like, what are we doing in the city now? So if we have like NMB like viewers right now, right? Like, why are you supporting the candidates that you're supporting, and why are you, like, what have they done? And well, the thing is like this, right? So there's like so many counter arguments against them. So many counter arguments against voting for them. But I mean, like, I just want to hear your point of view because you've been around, and some of these people you have called out before too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah. Absolutely. Very, very easy. In fact, a friend of mine who writes a blog completely called out one of my colleagues that's now running again. We all asked her to run again because there was nobody. We needed people to run, and this is in my particular seat. So we have 3 people running. One is an incumbent, and it's Fortuna Smuckler. She's been there for 4 years. She's honest. She's very prudent, very fiscally responsible and prudent in her spending, sometimes too much so, but she's honest, she's good, and she's she does a lot of charity work on the side, things with food banks, and she doesn't do it for the title. She's not big on that either. So
a mammogram or breast cancer thing too.
Yeah, she brought the breast cancer mobile to our city. She's just done a multitude of things. So that's a no-brainer. First of all, the person that's running in her seat is a carpetbagger. You know, first he was running in North Miami, then he was running in North Miami Beach, then he was running in North Miami again. The guy, and never mind the fact that he's now using very divisive terms in our community. And he's crazy. I mean, that just what's come out of his mouth would be reason not to vote for him.
So what's his name? Can you mention that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hans Marty.
Hans Marty. Oh,
yes.
Okay. I heard. Yeah, I've heard that he lived in my building, but then he didn't really live in my building. Or
Exactly. Oh, that's why we call him a carpetbagger, and he really has nothing. He has absolutely nothing to offer, and he's a fraud. He's, a million things I could tell you about him, but we won't.
He said something that was picked up by the media, right?
Yes, he compared the slate of candidates, but then prior to that, he actually compared the commissioners on the dais, Port-au-Prince versus Tel Aviv.
Oh,
so is that crazy? So three of the candidates on one slate happened to be of Haitian descent, and the other three happened to be Jewish, but they're not Israeli, so we don't understand the whole Tel Aviv part of it. It wasn't like the slate was put together because all three were white and all three were Jewish. I mean, that absolutely was all very organic, again, how that happened. But then when he brought it up about...
Phyllis isn't Jewish, is she?
Phyllis is Jewish. Her husband's not, but she is.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
But then he also brought that up on the dais, that it was Port-au-Prince versus Tel Aviv, when only Fortuna and I are Jewish, because Phyllis isn't there right now, and Tony isn't Jewish. So what the heck are you saying, dude? Like, honest to God. And today with all the and then he was on the radio talking about how you can only vote for Haitians, and if this Haitian isn't good, don't worry, we'll get another Haitian in, but you can't vote for Blanc people. And oh my God, it was disgusting. So that's Hans Marty. So let's move on. Phyllis is running in my seat. So there's three people running in seat 6. One of them is Mark Saintville, one of them who served on our planning and zoning board. He's under the armpit of some of my colleagues that I have huge issues with, for good reason. This other man named Wendley Mesidor, adorable, sweet, love to see this guy go further. He won't make it this trip around, but he's a great guy and we're all in love with him. He's just the super cutest thing. And so so I don't think he's going to win. I think the vote is it's going to come down to Mark Saintville and Phyllis. So why am I supporting Phyllis? First of all, because Mark Saintville couldn't also do the Pledge of Allegiance. That's not why I'm not supporting him, but he didn't do it at the last campaign forum. Wouldn't even put his hand over his heart. And secondly, he's under the armpit of colleagues that I can't stand. So right there, I have an issue with him. He sounds great. He's a smart guy. He's a criminal defense attorney, but there's just a missing something in what I see. Phyllis, I didn't get along with for many reasons, but again, she would say things. I felt like she wasn't, telling certain truths. In the end, though, I look for honesty in the sense of you're not corrupt. So Phyllis, with all my issues with her, and I mean, I used to yell at her like on the dais, just like my colleagues accuse me of doing, but they say I do it because we don't look the same. And then that's the reason. I used to yell at Phyllis all the time. And
I remember.
Yeah. I mean, she would even say, I hear you, Commissioner Kramer. I hear you in the microphone, because I would be like, like, and it would come out on the microphone. But she's not corrupt, and she really cares about the city. And she talks like me. She holds people accountable. And that's what we need. Just because I didn't get along with her because, she over embellished certain things and she talked too much, you realize what you know that saying, you don't know what you have till you don't have it. That's exactly what's happening right now, right? So just because maybe as a person we didn't get along, as people and as colleagues, we kind of rubbed, each other the wrong way. I never, ever thought she was doing things for the wrong reason. Never. So I'm supporting her.
Like her intentions are clear. It's just
Her
the
intentions are clear.
Yeah.
Right. It's just right. Little right. And again, you live and you learn, as they say. And then Jay Chernoff. So then in group two, I'm sorry. Jay Chernoff is running
the
against.
election is at large. So basically, like every resident can vote on these
Yes.
three candidates.
Yes, we're not districted, correct. And so Polly Villard is the incumbent.